think 2012 was, we could call it the year of the trophy sale, that we had a tremendous outpouring of eight-figure transactions. And actually, there's a number of contracts that were signed north of $90 million that don't even make the list because they haven't closed yet.
So the top five, the top one is an $88 million one. This is on Central Park West.
Right. This was about a 6,700 square foot apartment penthouse. It was Sandy Weil was a seller. It fronts the park. It went for $13,000 a foot, which is the highest price per foot ever seen. And it's not clear whether that's actually a market transaction or some other hiding assets in the U.S. during a divorce proceeding.
$88 million by Russian. That's a currency trade right there.
I mean, Sandy Weil was the former CEO and chairman of Citigroup. Did he do especially well on that transaction?
Well, he doubled his money.
Doubled his money. So but his entry point was north of 40.
Right, and it was north of 40, and at the time that he bought it, he had paid the highest per foot ever in the building. So on top of paying the highest per foot ever, he doubled his money, so he did well.
We're used to talking about, I mean, those of us who shop for apartments are used to looking at things on a per square foot basis, whether the threshold is $1,000 a square foot, give or take. How do you measure apartments in that neighborhood? You just said that it's the equivalent of $13,000 a square foot. Does it matter what it goes for on a per square foot basis? I can't imagine. It's like driving a Porsche. You shouldn't care what the parking tickets cost, right?
Well, I think that the threshold for the trophy property has sort of settled in the $8,000 to $10,000 a foot range, and those consumers are very cognizant of that number.
They are.
There's a status related to it.
So you want to pay more.
What's the average in New York?
The average is around $1,100, $1,200 a foot for all things, all apartments. We get into these numbers, you're not talking about the top 1% of the market, which starts at about 10 million. You're really starting at the top 0.2 or 3%.
Well, okay, so let's keep going with that. Number two, 70 million. And this one was bought by Steve Wynn on Central Park South.
Yes, this was what I called the first of, there were 3 transactions north of 10,000 square feet. This was one of the first ones, $70 million. That was so the top 2 sales were.
Did it come with elbow protection?
No.
I wonder if it came with a slot machine. Number three.
But it did front the park, and that's the New York.
Still a huge selling feature?
It is. We're one of the only metro areas where we pay a premium. I like to say we're inward looking because we like to look at Central Park. It's a much more restricted, the availability of units facing the park versus the waterfront.
Well, we like to look at the park from up high, perhaps 785 Fifth Avenue Penthouse. That's why it appealed to David Geffen.
Yes, and that was 12,000 square feet. That was a co-op, which is unusual to get that kind of number. Co-ops tend to sell for less than condos because generally international buyers won't qualify by co-op boards, so you're exposed to a smaller segment of the market.
And no doubt the board gave David a really tough time.
Yeah, I'm sure he had to have a lot of letters of recommendation.
I'm sure it wasn't.
But it actually is an interesting point that 2 out of 3 of the top sales were Americans. We have this idea in our head that all the foreign buyers are coming in and scooping up all the big deals in the luxury property.
Correct. So when you think of the international buyers, we have a big influx from Europe, China, and growing from South America in a very large way. Still, the majority of the large transactions were domestic purchasers and were co-op sales.
Why is it that trophy properties seem to be selling now like never before?
Well, I think it's a result. I call it luxury real estate has become some sort of new global currency.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so it's this idea that we have all this economic turmoil around the world. We have Europe in disarray. We have the economic boom, very expensive housing in South America. We have people seeking some sort of hard asset with the intent of preserving capital. And ironically, given all the problems we have politically with the economy, high-end housing markets like New York, like Miami, are really benefiting from this phenomenon.
What's your outlook for 2013? Are you looking for broader sales across New York?
I'm looking for a modest uptick in activity, but I am looking for prices to rise because we, like most of the United States, have a chronic shortage of inventory. Product is not on the market, new development and resales, and there's a lot of reasons for that.